So admittedly, this is old news. The article in question was published on May 14th, 2022, but its main talking points keep popping up as new flavors, even to this day. So the article starts off by giving Star Trek the credit it so rightfully deserves for popularizing science fiction in the 1960s. But then it quickly makes that weird Fox News turn that every story seems to do. Here's a quote directly from the article. But in 2 recent episodes, writers crossed a line where no Star Trek has gone before. That is to say, they got directly involved in partisan politics. Because, in all of its nearly 60-year history, Star Trek has never been political. Right? The article claims that the series Star Trek Discovery was somehow attempting to sway the election results of the gubernatorial race in Georgia. The Democratic candidate Stacey Abrams made an appearance on the show as none other than the president of the United Federation of Planets. They go on to be super ass mad about the new show, Strange New Worlds, and its depiction of the 2020 Capitol riot as being blamed, in quotes, for starting a second American Civil War and the destruction of the planet. Because, the right has a hard time distinguishing between fact and fiction. And Star Trek is fiction, just so you know. If you're upset for being called out on an agenda that brainwashed people into attempting to overthrow the government and interfere in a democratic election, you should probably check yourself. Who the hell wrote this article anyway? Let's look at his biography. Oh, well, I wonder what other articles he wrote. Oh, I see. Oh, okay. Yikes. The article goes on to say, ultimately the problem here is that this kind of political signaling is alienating for those fans who are not part of the Democratic Party political tribe. Now, as I said earlier, this article seems to be popping up in different flavors on Twitter. I shouldn't check Twitter. I have since deleted Twitter. But what really baffles me is that a lot of these comments are coming from boomers. People who know better, people who grew up with the series. I mean, come on, Star Trek was released when you were a kid, and it's always been woke. It really blows my mind when people think that Star Trek has only recently gone woke, and I know you can't see, but I'm doing air quotes around woke. The show's motto or catchphrase, to boldly go where no one has gone before, it's all about pushing boundaries. Maybe I'm grasping at straws here, so let's look at Star Trek's history and how it pushed boundaries. The first kiss between a black person and a white person on American television was on a Star Trek episode in 1968. Interracial romance is a commonplace on television nowadays, but the episode aired in the midst of the civil rights movement. In the midst of the Cold War, where anti-Russian sentiment was at an all-time high in the United States, we had Chekhov, a valued, beloved, and humanized Russian crew member aboard the Enterprise. There was also that gender-critical episode of The Next Generation in 1992. Maybe I'll do an episode on Star Trek and gender in the future, so if that interests you, please consider subscribing. There's also the anti-war, diplomacy-first pacifism portrayed in the United Federation of Planets, and the anti-imperialist doctrine of the Prime Directive, both of which were explicitly and boldly placed in the forefront of the majority of the characters' exchanges with other alien civilizations. Meanwhile, the United States had involvements in the Korean War, the Cambodian Civil War, the multinational intervention of Lebanon, the US invasion of Grenada, the bombing of Libya, the Tanker War, the United States invasion of Panama, the Gulf War, Iraqi no-fly zone enforcement operations, a military intervention in Somalia, the Bosnian and Croatian Wars, the Kosovo War, the war in Afghanistan, a military intervention in Yemen, the Iraq War, a military intervention in Pakistan, a military intervention in Somalia, again, Operation Ocean Shield, the international intervention in Libya, Operation Observant Compass in Uganda, and an American-led intervention in Syria. For over 50 years, the United States has been a force of destruction. all while Star Trek has pushed an agenda of fairness, pacifism, peace, and kindness, and a vision of a better future for everyone. But yeah, you know what? Hank McPatriotism from Harrison, Arkansas got it right. Star Trek's gone full woke. They're brainwashing our kids with their commie propaganders. Back in my day, Star Trek was proudly American. Except it never was. Star Trek has always been anti-American. Okay, a little caveat here. Star Trek is pro things that America does right, but viciously anti what America does wrong. Star Trek celebrates democracy, civil liberties, the pursuit of happiness, and opportunity, all American ideals. On the other hand, it harshly criticizes war, greed, bigotry, corruption, and power gaps, also all American ideals. The political right in the US is confusing. Like, oh no, we made the planet a cleaner, safer, and more beautiful place to live. Shucks, that's real bad. Them darn liberals. What do you mean poor people shouldn't be poor? Why would you say something so controversial? Something that has stuck out to me through my many viewings of the Star Trek franchise is the universe's economy. It's something of a post-scarcity economy, meaning the system has reached a point where goods can be produced as cheaply as possible, and with as little, if any, human labor involved, allowing necessities, and even what we would think of as luxuries, to be distributed freely to everyone. Sounds like a utopia, right? There's no twist. It is a utopia. When your food, your housing, your medical care, your transportation, your education, your entertainment are all provided by the government free of charge, it frees you of the crushing and most often disproportionate burden of economic struggle. It allows you to freely pursue your hopes and dreams. Star Trek envisions a future free of the greed that shackles our potential, a future where we aim to better ourselves
and the rest of humanity.
The conservative doctrine, by definition, is anti-innovation and anti-progress. And with so many problems in the modern world, I just don't see how stagnation or fetishizing a time when those same problems were much worse gets us anywhere. We have the power to change the world around us for the better, and we need to. Star Trek, although fiction, imagines a bright future, one where nobody is left behind, everybody can prosper, and your wildest dreams can be reality. We need to go forward, not backward. We need to look to the future, not the past, to create a better world, or worlds, for everyone. I think this whole video can be summed up by how Star Trek responded to being constantly called out for being too woke. Here's how Star Trek Discovery cast member Wilson Cruz responded. I'm so tired of this negative connotation for the word woke. You want to stay asleep? Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you soon, okay? Live long and prosper, friend.